Have you ever wondered what happens when a liberal professor tries to publicly humiliate a student he dislikes, only to realize that he's challenging not just any genius, but the certified 170 IQ genius Barron Trump? Trust me, by the end of this story, your jaw will drop. Today, I'm going to share events that will change the course of your life. But before we begin, please let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. At one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, Dr. Linda Markham's advanced calculus class had earned a reputation not only for its rigorous mathematical challenges, but also for the distinct political undertones that resonated with every student who stepped into the lecture hall. That morning, an air of uncertainty flickered across the students' faces, as if foreshadowing an unseen future. Before the lecture began, the faded academic posters and remnants of past debates hanging in the corners of the classroom bore silent witness to long-buried conflicts and unresolved discussions. Stepping to the front of the room, Dr. Markham addressed the class in a clear and commanding voice. "Today, we're not just solving equations, we're unraveling the complex formulas of life itself." Her words, met with glances laced with both curiosity and apprehension, seemed to foreshadow old injustices resurfacing and heated debates yet to come. The room carried the weight of an impending reckoning, one that would, in time, weave itself into campus legend, holding within it the unspoken hopes and fears of every student present. In the back rows of the classroom, time seemed to slow, carrying the silent echoes of deep contemplation and past reckonings. Barron Trump raised his hand deliberately, his gesture weighted with the gravity of the moment. Dr. Markham's gaze froze, a mixture of anger and disappointment flickering in her eyes. With a polite yet unwavering tone, Barron began to speak. "Professor, each step of this equation doesn't just account for numbers. It also reflects the prejudices we've internalized and the hopes we hold on to." His words rippled through the room, stirring memories of past conflicts and the faint echoes of unspoken aspirations for the future. As students scribbled furiously in their notebooks, they grasped the profound weight of every syllable, sensing that in time, this very exchange would become the stuff of campus legend. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a blend of old wounds aching for resolution, and the quiet promise of transformative change yet to come. Dr. Markham stepped to the front of the room, her eyes burning with restrained anger. Clutching the chalk tightly, she projected a complex multivariable calculus equation onto the board. Each line was more than just a numerical expression. It carried the weight of long-suppressed debates, ideals, and ingrained prejudices. The symbols and operators seemed to echo the scars of past injustices and the faint traces of hope for new beginnings yet to unfold. "This equation is not just a mathematical problem," Dr. Markham murmured. "It is a reckoning with bias, a testament to true knowledge, and a symbol of justice." At that moment, the echoes of past confrontations stirred in every corner of the classroom. The students, though silent, could feel it. This was the beginning of something that would soon carve its place in campus history. For a fleeting second, time itself seemed to slow, and each stroke of chalk hinted at the quiet yet inevitable transformations looming on the horizon. The equation was more than numbers and variables. It was a mirror reflecting the wounds of the past and the fragile yet persistent seeds of hope for the future. In every carefully placed symbol, the reverberations of old mistakes and the promise of what was yet to come could be heard, hanging in the charged air of the classroom. Barron Trump stepped forward, with measured, deliberate strides, his silent determination commanding the room. In that moment, all eyes were on him, not just as he prepared to solve a mathematical equation, but as he set the stage for a reckoning with justice, freedom, and the pursuit of knowledge itself. The glint in his eyes betrayed the storm of thoughts raging within him, and his unyielding desire to challenge worn-out prejudices. "I will meticulously calculate each component of this equation using Euler's method," he declared, his voice carrying both profound wisdom and an unwavering hope for the future. As students hurried to jot down notes, the symbols before them took on deeper meaning, intertwining the scars of past reckonings with the budding ideals of what was yet to come. At that moment, it was as if history itself had begun to take shape. This equation, this lecture, this day would one day be etched into campus legend. With every step Barron took, he waged a quiet rebellion against bias and a steadfast devotion to truth. This was more than just a mathematical triumph. It was a gateway to intellectual liberation, a moment destined to be remembered as a turning point in the pursuit of knowledge and justice. With each precise step across the board, Barron Trump meticulously wove formulas together, not just solving a mathematical equation, but laying bare a reckoning with long-suppressed prejudices, past debates, and a hopeful defiance. Each symbol transcended mere numbers, serving as the prologue to a transformation that would one day be inscribed in golden letters in campus history. As students hurriedly scribbled notes, they sensed that this moment carried both the scars of past struggles and the unspoken promise of a brighter future yet to bloom. Every word Barron spoke seemed to pry open a door to intellectual and personal freedom, turning the moment into something almost sacred. Under Dr. Markham's stunned and wary gaze, the young prodigy became a symbol of bold resistance against bias and injustice. This equation, this confrontation, would soon echo through every corner of the campus, planting the seeds of a new era in education. This was more than the dance of numbers. It was the beginning of a reckoning where minds would awaken and spirits would break free. Dr. Markham couldn't focus solely on the numbers on the board. She felt the weight of her own inner reckoning just as deeply. Hidden within young prodigy, Barron's bold solution were echoes of past wounds and long-forgotten ideals, rising once more to the surface. Every step he took resonated through the classroom, like a silent defiance against prejudice, injustice, and the unresolved debates of the past. The students sensed it. This moment would become an unforgettable turning point. Each word, each calculation was more than an academic exercise. It was the planting of seeds for a slow but inevitable transformation, a gateway to a future yet unwritten. In Dr. Markham's eyes, the cracks in the authority she once believed in were becoming visible, her heart swelling with both regret and a newfound hope. This equation was more than a mathematical problem. It would be remembered as a symbol of reborn values, freedom, and the true essence of education. Time itself seemed to stretch, as if preserving the significance of this moment, ensuring that every detail, every revelation would never be forgotten. As Dr. Markham stepped forward, the profound silence in the classroom seemed to awaken the echoes of past reckonings. In her eyes, a complex storm brewed, years of suppressed anger, disappointment, and disillusionment, now interwoven with the first flickers of a newfound hope. At that moment, Barron Trump's calculated precision transcended mathematical mastery, signaling something far greater: the revival of the human spirit and the reawakening of long-buried societal values. Every line, number, and operator on the board seemed to gently erase the scars of past struggles, while heralding an uncertain yet hopeful new beginning. The students, furiously scribbling in their notebooks, could feel it in their hearts. This moment would be etched into campus history as a pivotal turning point. Dr. Markham exhaled deeply before quietly admitting, "Perhaps true education is not just the transmission of formulas, but the healing of minds, hearts, and the wounds of the past." Her words lingered in the charged air as the eyes in every corner of the room reflected both the weight of history and the dawning light of change. Time itself seemed to slow, as if seeking to immortalize this critical moment of transformation. Each word, each symbol, carried the promise of a future built on the foundations of justice, knowledge, and renewal. The atmosphere crackled with the silent yet undeniable energy of past grievances and emerging ideals. A quiet revolution taking root in the very heart of the classroom. At that moment, the entire class watched in quiet reverence as Dr. Markham underwent her own transformation, mirroring the brilliance of Barron Trump's inspiring calculations. The lingering disappointment on her face softened into a quiet acceptance, filled with hope, and the atmosphere in the room shifted, no longer charged with past tensions, but instead brimming with solidarity and the fresh air of free thought. With each carefully chosen word, Barron conveyed something far greater than mathematical precision. He was erasing old prejudices and injustices, replacing them with enlightenment grounded in knowledge. The students were no longer just taking notes. They were engaging in profound internal reckonings of their own. Dr. Markham, now wearing a faint smile, finally spoke. "Today, we have calculated not just numbers, but the deeper meanings of life and the human spirit." Her words echoed through the room, carrying a weight that reached every corner. As the scars of the past began to fade, this moment became more than just an academic triumph. It stood as a symbol of rebirth, of the transformative power of true education. Time itself seemed to pause, as if bearing witness to the permanence of this pivotal shift. Each student, now poised at the edge of their own inner journey, stood ready to walk forward with newfound awareness and freedom. This reckoning was more than a classroom discussion. It was the dawn of a legend, one that would illuminate the path for future generations and inspire the ideals of those yet to come. At that moment, the entire class bore silent witness to the final act of a profound transformation. Dr. Markham had shed the weight of years of anger and stubbornness, her face now reflecting wisdom and acceptance. Barron Trump's calculations had become more than just a mathematical exercise. They had sparked a reevaluation of personal freedoms and ideals, planting the seeds of a new intellectual movement within the room. As students jotted down their notes, they weren't merely recording formulas, they were capturing the lessons of life itself. Each word seemed to erase the scars of the past, heralding a future illuminated by hope and newfound understanding. Dr. Markham, her smile gentle yet knowing, finally spoke. "Today, we didn't just perform a mathematical calculation. We rewrote the biases, grievances, and ultimately, the hopes hidden within our hearts." A deep silence settled over the classroom, as if the moment itself demanded reverence. Time, moving slowly as if to immortalize this historic shift, carried each student toward a new horizon of thought and freedom. This reckoning would become the foundation of a legend, shaping the future of the campus. What unfolded today would pave the way for the realities of tomorrow. Every symbol, every word, and every detail of this day stood as both a reflection of the past and an inspiration for the hopeful stories yet to be written. And tomorrow will return with even more untold stories. If this narrative resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next story.